First hockey topic here. And I know this is one that you said that you've been off the grid pretty much all summer, so you probably haven't heard of this, which is why I'm bringing it up mostly. This is our chance to catch up and me fill you in.
I did look at the outline. I do know what you're about to say. I know very little about it. So, yeah.
So, weeks, months, I'm not sure what it was ago, rumors started spiraling of a startup hockey league called MLH, Major League Hockey, that was supposedly Saudi-backed and was going to like have a salary caps of like 30 million per team with only like 10 to 15 players on a team. They were going to be poaching like good AHL players, kids from Europe, getting kids to leave college, whatever. And I think it was Steve Dangle basically came out and like he had heard of it from a credible source and then went out and started talking about it. And all the players like started asking about it. Like they were reaching out to Steve directly and being like, yo, like, who do I reach out to about this? Because this sounds pretty sweet. And then he found out like a week and a half later that like it was kind of sketchy and maybe like wasn't super valid. And it was one of those things where you can't put the genie back in the bottle, right? The players like fear that they can go and make like big time money compared to like if you're playing in the like AHL, ECHL, you're making 5 figures. Whereas this was a chance to make like 750,000, which is a big deal. And so he tried to talk them out of it. They're like, nah, I want to look into this more. And it just got sketchier and sketchier as it went. Like it was basically a real life, like, I guess it was real life. So that was a weird way to put it. But it was a hockey Fyre Fest where like everyone showed up for the music festival and like just it didn't exist. There was like tents, there was no luxury island, there were no bands, there were just stages that were kind of set up, and it was a shyster behind it. And that's basically what it was for this league. Like even like apparently a notable GM from the past who they haven't disclosed yet, like was a consultant for like getting this league started and has not been paid and is apparently suing the shit out of them. Like it's some guy, I can't even remember. I think it's nope, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna grasp at straws, but there's a guy that apparently has like claimed to have stake in different teams and like is kind of the guy that's just spoken himself into existence, kind of like the Islanders guy that like bought the team, remember, quote unquote, like almost got away with it even though he had zero money to his name. This sounds like kind of the same type of shyster ordeal. And I don't know, it's just crazy to me that there are players that like actually passed on signing deals in Sweden, could have made like 250, 300K, tried to go into this league that no longer exists and their spots are filled and now they're like fucked. Like it just sucks.
Okay. I remember the start of this because like obviously like Dangle tweeted about it and then it went crazy. I didn't know that much was going on in the background. It's very funny in my head that like Dangle probably was like, yep, got this scoop. And then immediately was like, oh no. Because I remember him like having a backtrack, but now it's even funnier in my head knowing that behind the scenes, he's like, nah, man, like that's not worth it.
No, like he is borderline traumatized that this happened. I listened to one of like the episodes on his new network recently. And he basically said, like, I feel terrible. Like, yeah, you feel dumb when you get, like, a scoop wrong and, like, people dunk on you. Like, whatever. I can handle that. I got thick skin. But when I'm, like, potentially fucking up people's lives, I feel awful. And the second he learned anything, he said, like, I reached out to every single person that had talked to me and told them right away, like, this is sketchy. Like, you need to look into it more or just completely back out. And he said, like, 90% of the guys were like, yeah, no, I think I'm going to look into this more. Like, not in like, I want to figure out what's going on. More like, no, dude, I'm pretty interested in this. Like, thanks though.
And you know what? Like, realistically, like, I'm sure, like you said, like Dangle obviously is going to feel fucking horrible about this.
Yeah.
At the same time, dude, like he's not an insider. Should he have like gone? I'm sure he, again, like good scoop, like good source, whatever. Same time, like these motherfuckers have agents. Like
That's a fun part, Z. Apparently they were told not to get their agents involved.
There you go. Like
once they got in touch with like the league, you know, like it's like
at that point, I'm like, okay,
your red flag. Like what?
Like you're a dumbass if you go that far, and you're like, okay, I guess I will not tell the agent that's responsible for getting me like pretty much all of my deals anywhere.
And granted, I don't know that all of them like bought in. Like that might have been the point where some of them are like, okay, maybe not. But
yeah, so at that point, that's where I'm like, listen, there's plenty of shit to dunk on like Steve Dangle about, but like that's where I'm like, okay, like what's he really at fault for? Running with a bad scoop. That's it. Anyone that actually, if you're a fucking pro hockey player and you saw this on Twitter and you immediately go to him and then you like get in touch with this fucking league, they tell you don't tell your agent about this.
I'm sure
at that point, and I get it, and I get the appeal. So I could play pro hockey. I could play pro hockey and like not make ECHL money. Like, yeah, that's gonna be appealing. At some point, the red flags, if that's not making you like, oh, this might be bullshit. And like, yes, I know, I get that they're savvy, but at the same time, like, bro,
like these guys that have convinced. So basically, another thing that came out in the podcast was like this guy that's at the top of it. And again, I'm spacing on the name. I'm not going to grasp at straws and try and remember which one it was. Basically,
Stan Bowman. Shit.
No,
Oops, sorry.
He is an alleged billionaire, and someone that was like a really, really good, that GM basically, right? The one that we don't know the name. He talked to one of the guys from The Athletic for like a story, and he basically said like, oh, billionaire? I don't even know that he's millionaire. So like, this is a guy that if he's got a lot of people convinced that he's a billionaire, he can probably talk his way around like, hey, yeah, agents will come in eventually, but right now we're working through this, whatever. Like, I'm sure it was like a very savvy delivery. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's just like, oh no, agents. No. Don't bring agents. You don't need them. Like,
yeah.
Smart
and
guy.
I should rephrase. I still have sympathy for anyone who legitimately gets conned or whatever. My whole thing was like anyone that like, yeah, again, Steve Dangle, clearly like he is he's a Leaf guy on Twitter, so he's gonna be like annoying or whatever. But like the same, he's a good dude. And like my whole thing is at no point should I be like, you son of a bitch, Steve.
No,
like that's not his fault, dude.
No. And I don't think people are mad at him, but like still, if I was in Dangle's shoes, like I would be terrible,
dude.
You know, like I get it.
Yeah.
And so Isha, you didn't listen very closely. Saudis do have the money. There is no Saudi tie to this. That was a rumor that came up from like people commenting online. There were no Saudis. It's just a guy and like his son who have like convinced people in the hockey world that they have money. And all of a sudden they had this league. And again, they had like a former GM in the NHL convinced that this is a real league and that they were going to pay him as a consultant. And now he's suing them. So like,
and now he's GM of the Edmonton Oilers.
And that's an incredible transition